Right, EO, am I recording? I am recording, I'm recording. How cool is this bit of technology? Right, so instead of trying to write stuff, there is so much in this video that is of value to everyone. So I'm going to go through it bit by bit. Bill, thank you, mate. Thank you for...
the way my week has gone.
Yep, hang on a minute.
Out great last weekend.
Nope, stop. No, that's not going to work for me. Sorry. Move that back. Right. And what do we got down here? Market, rain on a tent, Boris Johnson, rain. Interesting. Rightio. So let's go back to the top. Now I run my... Just so you don't hear the audio and it goes through the mic, so you hear it double, I've got to use my headphones. So, rightio. So now I can hear...
Do another episode of Bill's an idiot and doesn't know how this works.
Bill. You are not an idiot, my friend. You are not an idiot. And constant... I know it's a bit of self-deprecation, and I'm right into that. Oh, that looks kind of freaky, doesn't it? Ooh, possessed. Positive reinforcement. I'm working on it. I'm frustrated, but I'm working on it. Because even though it's sort of said in a joking way, it can manifest in negative responses. So what I suggest is trying to keep things really positive all the time, given some of the things that you've said later in the video. And so I don't want to get too serious about it, because I'm the biggest, at self-deprecation, but there are some issues that I, just recommend you're in your mind, things are a lot worse. Things are a lot worse in your mind than what they are in reality, and I'm going to explain that as we go along.
So, going back to Visualizer, it seems like the consensus is from multiple people, including another friend of mine who I know plays with his lips forward, and he's changed the way he plays, largely in part to Greg's philosophies. That there's too much pucker when I'm trying to do this. I guess it's a subtle difference. I don't feel there's a lot of difference from what I do.
There, after, I've watched the video once already, there's not much difference at all. And this is the thing. I think you're looking too far beyond what you're doing. There's a term, I'm sure you've heard it, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Meaning that not everything is wrong. Bill, you're a rockin' player. Now, I realise that there are some issues, but we've got to be real constructive. And I know it's hard because there's all this confusion going on about how to get past this place that you're at the moment. But there are so many great things going on. You are so close to opening some things up. You're already doing a lot of the things, and you don't even realise you're doing it. And so what you just said then is spot on. Yes, you are really, really close to where we're headed.
And I've heard that the analogy cooling soup. Somebody mentioned it. Charlie Porter mentions that.
I like the cooling soup. Perfect.
If I'm just relaxed and don't do that process.
So that what you're doing there is perfect. Take a snapshot of it. Let me go back. Let me just drop back a little bit. See, there we go. So what does that feel like? If you hold your face there. Remember when we were speaking online? I've looked at it and I've just laughed. I said, you're doing it perfectly. But the brain's going, I can't play like it. There's no way this will work. And I cannot, I've seen it so many times. I'm talking in the hundreds. I don't know that it's 1,000. I haven't had that many students. But it's in the hundreds. And when you see, look right there. See if I can, no, I can't do what I want to do, but you could place the rim over that. Don't move it. Shut your eyes. What does it feel like? I call it the Maggio. Perfect.
If I'm just relaxed and don't do that process.
There. Yeah, see that right. So what you did then, you went from into a, and that's too far. So that's what Peter was saying, is pushing it forward. It's so let me just rewind that. You're spot on there. That's too much, right? So again, how do we know what is too much? The fact that you had the again, what are we working on? What is the point of this? You can push more, but what is the point? Aperture corner awareness. Nothing. In. It's all in that Peter's video. It's all there. It's perfect. So what we've got here is too far, right? Which is fine, because if we go back,
process.
There. That's all it is. You've set your corners there. There's no pinch in the lips. There's freedom of flow. And then when you pucket it forward, have a look. That's taking it too far.
And don't do that process.
Right. So again, too far when you pursed forward, and then when it was just natural, you know. See, and what I'm going to go through is being able to put the rim on exactly that. And I haven't seen the tissue. I need to see what's happening with the tissue.
Still pretty forward and way foreign from how I normally play.
And way foreign is totally fine. Way foreign is probably a small difference can feel dramatically. You know, you know the feeling if you move your mouthpiece micromillimeter, it feels drastic, feels massive. So again, your feeling of playing over years and years and years is more work in the middle, more pressure on the chops, and more push of the air. So now letting go of that is feels dramatic, but we need to make a change here. So I know you're embracing it, but every time you do that, that is what it feels like to play. That's what you're telling yourself. Not that feels ridiculous, that feels ridiculous. You understand the system. You need to make a change. We're trying to, think of that. Maybe you guys haven't seen all the focal dystonia stuff I've been working on. But rejecting the past. Right? Now, I recognise that you still have to play, but I'm just taking you through the process that I went through. You've got to reject what you've been doing in the past for the learning process. Now, circle and square. Circle is the rejection of the past. Then forget about it. Don't even think about it. Go and play the gig. Right? You can still do what you've always done. You can still do what you've always done, but we're introducing new sensations that, yes, are clearly conflicting, and there's this fight going on. It feels foreign, but it's only a small change, and you're really close to it. So don't be conflicted by it. Embrace the fact that we're doing something different, and you can't expect to do something different and play at the peak of your ability instantly. Although you're going to mention it shortly, you had on the weekend. You had these moments. I mean, Bill, you answer a lot of your own questions, and I'm sure the other guys watching this will say the same thing. You've actually answered a lot of your own questions in this video. It's great.
And I've tried the cooling soup, less puckered setup, and I still, the vibrations are stubborn.
That's okay. Stubborn. I love that word. Stubborn is... It's great. Love it. Stubborn's fantastic.
One concern I do have is, again, I've been spent some more time on the visualizer is...
Right, so far, the word concern. Don't be concerned. Concern is reptilian. I know how to do this. Don't tell me how to do it differently. Right? It's a subconscious rejection of change. Don't be concerned. Be interested. Oh, I wonder. We're experimenting. We've got to find, there's no one set way to do it. But concern is, and maybe I'm getting too carried away with one word, but you think about it when you say, I'm concerned about, and I can't even remember what you're concerned about, but the word concern has got to change from, oh, the world's about to end, I'm concerned, to, I wonder what'll happen. I wonder, this feels really weird. I wonder what'll happen when this happens. Based on you understand it. You understand, and you say it later again, you get it. You get it up here. But transferring it into your playing is creating conflict. Of course it is. But we've got to be accepting of that. The whole focal dystonia, getting through that is death to the old self, in a way. And then there is new pathways with zero expectation. Zero, I used to be able to do this. It's gone. This is, this is what it feels like. I was teaching someone the other day who is coming through some really big issues. And finally, we had this moment of absolute joy. And she followed it up straight away with, that's what it used to feel like. And all of a sudden, what should have been a positive experience was saturated with negativity based on hanging on to the past, wanting to be that musician she used to be. But that musician she used to be was not right, and it ended up being in this really bad situation. We've got to put that aside. And again, I'm not, closed off to the fact that you've got to go and do a rehearsal tonight. You've got to do a gig tonight, right? Of course you do. But this is where circle and square comes in. There is no concern in the circle. We need to make a change. You're here because you need to make a change. You've got to that point where you've gone, no, I can't do it. No, I can't do it. No, I can't do it. And now you're here and you're sharing this with people, which is awesome because it gives me the opportunity in real life situation to get on here and talk about it. You've made the decision to make a difference. So put aside any concern and just be in awe of the possibilities and the wonder of what might happen. You've got to let go. You've got to let go. There is no concern. There is no concern. Soon as we try to think back to what we were or what we could do or what we think we could do, you're not focusing on creating new pathways. You are creating new habits, and it's deep and it takes time. It takes understanding, acceptance, and surrender. That's awesome. Again, when we spoke, I'm like, you're nailing it. That's great. So what is your concern? I need to be reminded what the concern is.
The visualizer on. I'm worried that...
You're worried? Again, I don't need to say any more about that, do I? Don't be worried. I'm interested.
Because I have such large lips that it kind of...
So just notice, if you watch that back slowly, there was a change in the way that you were forming the chops. You started to bring the lips towards the visualizer, as opposed to chops are set, place, Everything's in reverse on this screen, so I keep... Right. Set. Au. Not. Visualizer coming. Better get ready for visualizer and set something. Keep it still. The Maggio. Mau. So we're set. Imagine the chimp. And you're placing it on top. And something I'm going to talk about again, the tissue. Airstreams coming out, hitting tissue. Airstreams coming out, hitting tissue. When you place over, air can still hit tissue. What's happening here if you're not hitting tissue?
Obstructs the air or squashes the lips into...
Okay, so there's the concern. Now again, have a look at that. You can see there's the opening. Now remember, we're developing a sensation. We're developing a feeling. Can you play all over the horn at all volumes like that? Of course not. You cannot play high C like that. But you've just proven that you can put the rim over a relaxed aperture, which is an opening. Aperture is an opening. Now, is that air hitting tissue? I do not play the instrument like this. I can get a pedal tone on the lead pipe. Whatever the pitch is going to be. All right, so it's very important that we understand what we're focusing on at every point of this process. You've proven that you can do it. Right there, it's perfect.
Obstructs the air or squashes the lips in to kind of mess with the airflow.
Again, so there's no squashing of the lip there. So there's nothing impeding the airflow.
I guess I don't have a choice in that matter.
No, well, you have your lips are your lips. But again, you've just proven. And this is why the tissue is important. Don't try and play. Don't try and preset. You just did it. You just put the rim on your chops.
But I wanted to see if anyone else thought that might be an issue and what I can do.
So I'd like to see a demonstration of what you're talking about there, because you're saying that it's closing up. So what you'd be doing, you can open it up. You can open it up. And then the brain will go, I'm playing in the red. We've gone down that path. We've done the video.
To fix it if it is. So again.
Perfect. I suspect when you're doing that build that the air is going to be going a little bit down. At this stage, it's no big deal, but it's an awareness development. I want to make sure... I mean, if it's going down, there is a chance that we're rolling the bottom lip. Now, of course, people have jaws that are forward or jaws that are back. But if I can get that air straight out, then we're going to be able to work on the aperture corners. So that's why, again, the tissue is really important. So if you can do another video with the tissue, that would be awesome. See, it's not closing up there.
Okay.
It closed up a little bit there. And that was pushing the rim onto the chops. And just be conscious there's a little bit of engagement. When you're doing all this stuff, I recommend constantly passive. Because what's happening is every time the rim's coming up, there's a blow. And I got an email this morning, or a messenger message, from a guy I gave a lesson to in London, professional player. Man, Greg, I haven't had time to work on much of your stuff, but the whole concept of release, it's freeing everything up. It's the slingshot, it's the release, it's the balloon. Every time you do this, feel the balloon. So it's just a seed, but the movement of the arm sets into motion the playing process, and at the moment it seems that the playing process involves engagement and pushing of the air, and we want to get rid of that. We want to have, practice with the visualizer coming in that there's the breath. Then let it go. No engagement. No engagement. If you watch back, I think you'll find that each time, and I'll watch it again afterwards, but I remember thinking first time through that I'm seeing engagement all the time. So use this as an you're not trying to play the visualizer. You're developing a feeling, you're developing an idea, a sensation. So use it as a way of retraining. Backswing. Same thing. No push, no engagement. Release. Passive reduction.
I'm just trying to relax. I'm not even trying to form any kind of muscle tension.
There's no forming there. There is no forming there. There's your R. There's a forming. So you are using activation. There's the ooh. Bill, my dear, wonderful friend, you're a lovely bloke, and I can't wait to sit in a sports bar with you again and drink beers and get messy. It's going to be awesome. That is your ooh. You've just nailed it. Your brain cannot get around the fact that you can play a ringing freaking low C like this. All I can say is if you were to engage there, appreciate the difference of the sensation you'll have here. It will be different because you're used to that, right? It's going to feel like the buzz is happening from closer in the lips, right? Inside the lips. It'll be almost a tickle point. If you could let that go, if you could walk around for a month, create exactly that shape that you've made here, get air into the lungs and literally walk around and tell yourself on a deep psychological level, convince yourself that is what it feels like to play. There's a ringing low note there. And the brain will be going, no, it's not possible, based on your years of experience. Not possible. And then you tell that reptilian thing that's about to pounce on you, no, we're not saving lives. I'm not in danger here. I'm just trying to refine the way I do things. Now, based on the physics and the studies and the this and that, I get it intellectually, and I get that you're challenged, but let's just experiment, because we know that if we don't make a difference, we're going to keep doing the same thing. So we need to make a difference, and we need to embrace the sensations of the strangeness, We've got to embrace it. You walk around for a month. That's Dan Quigley. In the pocket. At a barbecue. Beer. Right? And you've seen the outcome. That works. Positive reinforcement. It's different. Consider this. The way that it feels to play the instrument is different to what you think it should feel like. It's different. It's going to feel like a different instrument. You've been doing it one way for a long time. It's going to be different. How much difference is... There's no answer to, because it's different for everyone. But it might only be, as you said, you're really close to it. You are really close to it. I'll keep going. There it is. Oh, I've got to go back again so you get this.
again, just trying to relax. I'm not even trying to form any kind of muscle tension.
Right? Ooh. There's no tension, but there's activation. There's no tension, but there's activation. Now, when the rim goes on, still open. Perfect. Okay, yeah, so when you go to the... That's too far. Just let it sit there exactly the way you did it.
But, again, I'm still having problems with this paradox in my mind of if the corners are coming in.
Yeah, so again, that's too much. Too much. It's not so much... It's an activation, and when you actually activate... It's not an in to make it... And I know, see, I do this, but it's a way of getting away from that. And so your translation's not wrong. And that's what I said in a previous answer. Or in that video. You're not wrong. But it's not my intention to think that you've actually got to go right forward. If I could just, tweak in there, if I could keep, it's not quite the width, but if I can activate, and this is where the little finger's a good idea. And you're grabbing, there's a little grab there. It's a little activation, but it's not that. All right, it's downways as opposed to that way, just down a little bit. And the fingers, even bite on your little finger. So it's in that one, but it's not forward. It's really hard to explain. But again, the issue here is that you're trying to take this approach into the upper register, right? I'm setting an idea. The aul, which we've already spoken about, is getting the horn onto the face and getting just the low pitch, which you can do now, right? Wah, 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 ya, 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 wah. Once you've got that, then let's get onto the horn. Let's not get too hung up on that stuff. Let's do it on the horn based on the feeling and based on the sound. Based on the feeling, based on the sound, I wish I had have shut my... I didn't shut my door like I normally do. Now there's a delivery truck or a rubbish truck turning up. The feeling and the sound. The feeling and the sound. The feeling and the sound. You've got the foundation there. You put the horn on. We work around. You get your low C. Then when we start doing the harmonic slurs and everything, does it feel the same? Or does it go into that? Does it sound free? Do we pinch the lip in the middle? The tiny tweak, the whole essence of the harmonic slur challenge is to start slow, go for a long time to create awareness, and then go for longer to find speed, agility, refinement of the balance of the aperture corner tension and the flow. Right? So don't try and take it too literally to try and to get up higher, because it would be very easy to go, I can make a tiny hole, and then go and really make the tiniest blooming cat's bottom sort of. That's not it. 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 Where you're trying to take the owl too far, and it's my fault. But it's just, we're trying to come up with different ways to get away from the pinch and an engagement of the aperture corners. But in the translation, to try and get these things across to people, for some people it works straight away, and others, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's just you're taking it too far. And I was about to say over analyzing. But mate, you're not overanalyzing. You're analysing it your way, which is fine. So all I'm going to say simply is step it back a bit. Let's appreciate the ah-oo. Get the buzz on the lead pipe, and then get onto the low C, and we build from there. We don't need to think too much about it, because you'll recognise the feeling if you start to pinch in the middle, the backup and the over push. All right.
Won't that create more pucker?
It does create more pucker, but as I've just explained, we don't need to go down that path.
And won't that visually still look like the corners are coming in?
Yep. Again, it does look like the corners are coming in, but there are other things at play.
Instead of a pullback, I don't know. The whole, I understand it, and I can see it, but again, I don't know, again, what I'm doing. So,
This is the really interesting part. And I don't think I've ever put it on a video. And in fact, Bill, I think you might have asked me years ago, maybe it was Sean in California, how did I come about all of this stuff? What was my journey? And it's really simple. I needed to make a change, and I knew I got to that frustrated point, and I'm still gigging. I knew I had to make a change, and there is something in the way that I think that I was happy to experiment with the most ridiculous things, and this is why I laugh so much about the Alexander stuff, because naturally I simply rejected everything that I was doing. Went, no, I don't care how ridiculous it is. I need to make a change, and the more ridiculous, the better. And the more I learnt about it, the more I understood about it, the more I recognised what's going on, seeing the psychological impact of a lot of the teaching that's out there and what impact it's having on people. I'm trying to devise a way of short-circuiting, getting rid of a lot of that stuff. Based on my own experience, I was prepared to just throw everything away, and you're challenged by it, again, as opposed to embracing it and just exploring. I can't put you in my situation of where I was at because I was teaching it to myself. I had no one teaching it to me. So in order for me, sharing my experience can create conflict if someone's not in that same mindset, experiencing it the way that I was. But, I mean, Bill's really close to that. We know that. The frustration's there. But then, based on what you're doing here, embrace it all. Just experiment with it. And don't try and get your playing to, this new whole approach to be able to play like you already play in the square. You're doing your gigs, you're doing your rehearsals and whatever. Don't expect to be able to do this now and play like that, even though you had a moment on the weekend where it all sort of morphed in. And there's a whole different psychology about that we're going to talk about, what happened the following days. I mean, it's really heavy. We're a third of the way through the video. This could be a long video, but it's the essence of everything that I'm on about, and to have Bill share this experience and give me the opportunity to talk about it and what we're actually looking on is really, really useful. It's great. So that's too much. Oh, good. So that's different. Okay, so have a look at that picture there, right? You're still engaging the aperture corners, the ah-oo, but ah-oo, ah-oo. It's just overdoing it, right? So I think if with you watching this back and explaining it, you'll see the difference.
Mouth. almost the feeling of pushing the mouthpiece or the visualizer away from the face.
That's fine. That's fine. It is that. But all I'm doing again, I'm going to keep repeating it. I'm going to keep repeating it and 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 repeating it until people really understand the sensation you get when doing is you've already engaged the corners. Ah, you've engaged them. No engagement, ah. A degree of engagement, ooh. No pinch of the lip, freedom of air movement, freedom of flow. That's it. I'm not remotely thinking about range or trying to make it smaller to play higher or anything like that at this stage. Embrace this for what it is just the feeling of it. And then we do the humming. How hard is it to hum? The lips interact with the air as if they're the vocal cords. There it is. That's all we need at this stage, right? And over time, the point of difference is when you experience what you're doing here and you're walking around day after day after day after day after day after day after day, telling yourself, and then you pick up the horn and play. And you said in a comment somewhere about having a sore throat after the rehearsal. Dude, there it is. There's the point of difference. How do you create a sore throat? Imagine if you weren't playing the instrument and you tried to create the sensation, the feeling that you had. How would you physically do that without the instrument? You'd be doing that. If you walked around and did that and put all this pressure in the throat, you would get a sore throat. So consider the difference in the feeling between ah, and they're polar opposites. So then at what point does turn into when you recognize that point? That's where you're up to. That's why the course is developed the way it is, to go through and find, is it low C? Is it E flat, F, G? Not, I'm going to play my whole range like that. It takes a lot longer. We're building a new building, remember? The old building, the new building. Old buildings crumble, but we still have to live there. New building's going to be a better foundation, stronger. But you can't move straight in. Let's just dabble. Let's have a coffee in the cafe in the new foundation, but then still live at home. For those that haven't seen the video on trumpet playing life or death, watch that. It'll make sense. So, yeah, I'll move on.
I've heard that before too. And I don't see how you do that unless your lips are puckering more. Maybe someone can shed some light on that for my feeble brain.
There we go. I'm not going to say much more because it's said jokingly, but it's symptomatic of, the depressed trumpet player in here, and it's just allowing that to have negative impacts on your psychology. Gone. Don't do it. Positive reinforcement. I'm learning. I'm really excited to understand this because I understand that it can work, but can you help me along the process of developing it and allowing it to integrate with my current playing, which I'm very comfortable with accepting is the machine. The Renault mechanics are very comfortable with the machine that they've got in the Formula One thing, but they're not Mercedes. They're still racing, but they're not winning. But each day they come back and they keep working on the machine, the motor, refining pipes and tubes and mixers and and eventually they've got the same tools, they've got the same metal and rubber as Mercedes. What's the balance? Why are Mercedes and what's the other one? Ferrari, I think they're going all right. Why are they better than Sauber or Haas? And I'm not a massive fan, but it's a great analogy. I don't mind F1. But you get my point. So we're cool with who we are because we accept reality. Reality is I've got the chops and the ability that I have right now. Don't reject that. Accept that and accept the fact that we're working on it. Accept the fact that there are tweaks that can be made that will get you to the next level. It can be done. But constant negative reinforcement is sending you in a downward spiral. An awareness of the observer going, wow, that's cool, isn't that interesting? Is new, fresh, learning. We have to learn. We're learning new skills. Don't reject the learning process. If you're rejecting the learning process, don't do it. And then nothing will change. Embrace it. And there has to be differences. Enjoy the differences. You've had positive moments and it's developing, but you want it to develop more quickly. And it takes time. How much time? It's different for everyone.
So back to just my normal set, how I normally play all the time. My lips are much more closed, starting gently this way. If I play a low C approximately, or blow air like that.
See, there's hardly any difference there. You're setting your lip tissue around the rim, so you're finding that comfort spot. So to go from what you're doing there to the owl will be really, really, really similar. Really similar. You're already doing it, and that's what I alluded to at the start of this video. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You've created... I'm just drawing your awareness to the aperture corners. So you're trying to over-engage them where you're engaging them. You're doing it.
Visualizer off, it kind of looks like the Mau.
It does. It does. Can you watch that? I'm going to repeat it. It kind of looks like it because it is.
When I take the visualizer off, it kind of looks like the Mau. So I don't know.
See, there, have a look at the difference. Have a look at the difference. There is a lot that's happened in that half a second. When you place the rim there, there's a jaw movement. There's a little kind of just get the comfortable feeling of the lip tissue, and you're setting the lip tissue on the rim. Now, that, as soon as you do that, creates a little bit of a grab, which is going to be harder to get sympathetic oscillation because it's gripped a little bit. We want to let it go. Hence, the tissue and placing over. Now, it's subtle. It's really subtle, and I'm lucky to be able to pick this stuff up, okay? And maybe a lot of people won't see it, but there is a difference to what you've got right here, and it's only minor, but there's a jaw movement and a lip movement that is grabbing the rim that is going to create a bit of an, what's the word I'm after? Synthetic oscillation, because it's gripped, so you're going to have to pinch it a bit to get it to vibrate. You're grabbing, see if you can pick it. It's dudes, this is right. This is the point.
Off, it kind of looks like the Mau. So I don't know. But maybe the problems aren't low. The problems are when I get high. Now, I've thought long...
Yeah, let me do that again.
Ooh.
There it is.
So, I don't know.
Just here. See, even there, you watch what happens. It's only minor. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So, when you're saying, I don't know, that's because you're doing it right already. So you're looking for something that you don't need to look for. Just make sure... tissue. I got to keep going back to the tissue. You got to do the tissue. You got to do the set and place the rim over the top.
But maybe the problems aren't low. The problems are when I get high. Now,
maybe the problems aren't low. I feel like you are spot on. I feel like you're spot on.
I've thought long and closely about what actually happens when I go higher, and I am pretty convinced that I pull the corners back into a quasi-smile form.
Trying to replicate on the visualizer is fraught with danger because we're quite possibly doing quite different things on the horn. They got no problem with this. There's no.
If I were to pretend doing
no drama there.
Harmonic slurs up to G or higher.
Okay, this is all fine, except notice the airflow change when you went up higher. The body kicked in. Don't kick the body when you play higher. It's going to be softer, sure. But again, the suggestion of playing higher is engaging the body. Learn to change shape without engaging the body is more of my issue than what you're doing here. Because again, is it a direct resemblance of what's happening when you're playing the horn? Maybe, maybe not. I wouldn't get too hung up on that. See, there's nothing, besides the kick of the air, I got no problem with that.
Going to the horn.
Singing C. No problem. Okay, so what's happening now? And yes, where you're maintaining the volume, is that's happening, but the reason that the sound is still happening, and it's a good sound, the body's kicking, and it's kicking more than it needs to, right? And the reason it's doing that is because the lips have gone into this. So whether it's the lips doing that is requiring the body to force the air, or whether you're kicking the air too much and the lips are tightening up to resist, because the horn can't take the air you're trying to force into it. I can guarantee by right now you are not feeling the body's concert hall. Maybe I'm wrong. And so what are we at? I can't tell how far I am through this video. But whatever the timestamp is here. 47:55. Crikey. 47:55. Greg, no, I was completely body's concert hall. I don't believe it for a second. But maybe you are. There is too much work going on. There is too much clamp down in them. There's too much meat getting stuck in the mouthpiece. There is too much force of the air to make it work. So you're going to back up, and you are soon going to run out of room to move because you're jamming up the cup and the corners are not doing their thing. So the way that we fix it is a hell of a lot lower. A lot lower. A lot lower. A lot lower. Trying to connect what you've done down in the low register to what you're doing now is way too far advanced. The foundation level goes to middle C. The fact that it only goes to middle C doesn't mean that you... I need to get people to understand this, and it's really hard. People will look at that and goes, "Oh, that's not a method. That only goes to middle C." Are you kidding me? I can't put into words the importance of the stuff that's in that foundation level about awareness and recognition of the system. There are many ways to play middle C. And even if I jump back a little bit, let's just go from when you start playing.
The horn.
Let's see what happens when we get to the G and the C. Right. There's too much going on. It's instantly starting, and if you shut your eyes, you'll notice it, buddy. You're going to be pushing the air. It's going to start and feel here. So if you got to here by middle C, by a high C, it's going to be a lot worse. And people will happily say, "Oh, it sounds great." My philosophy is, and I've said it to some freaking amazing players, I don't care what it sounds like, I want it to be right. I don't care what it sounds like, I want it to be right. To keep engaging, playing your middle G and your middle C like that is going to end up in the same situation. If you pull right back and really get your freaking magnifying glass out, again, here we go. And I had that gig last night I've been talking about, so it's a big gig, and so this is going to be rough. And I can't play too loud because my door's open. But humming now. It's the same. 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 Don't engage. You're engaging way too much already. And you can hear it in the sound. As soon as you get to the E to the G, it sounds beautiful. It's a beautiful trumpet sound. But what people aren't hearing and don't recognize is the E to the G is ah, and it's not that reflected in the sound. The sound is a good trumpet sound. But I want that, not that. There's engagement the whole way through, and please tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. If you finish that and go, yep, I felt like that all the way through, I won't believe you.
I don't.
And there was only a tiny little bit of at the end of the low C. It was really good.
I don't.
Yeah, there's not that much going on by the time you got down there.
See a lot of difference visually, but
you don't see a lot of difference because what you're doing is really great as far as this goes. There's just too much going on here, and then there's too much going on here, and it's going to back up.
I do feel that it's pulling back.
So our sensation of what's going on and what's actually going on are often two different things. And remember this, the more I grab inwards, the more activation here. The bottom lip is rolling a little bit, and this is where the ah-ooh, getting the bottom lip forward, engaging those corners. Tissue, 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 tissue. Bill, you're a fan, and this doesn't mean anything to you. I know this. You're sick of hearing it. But positive reinforcement of it's what I can do is actually really good. What I can do is really good. Do I want it to be better? Yep. I got to the front. I was working. And people say you sound great. It doesn't mean anything. In my head, it's awful. There's no satisfaction. In what you're doing there, do you hate that? We're going to open it up, but accept the fact for now, because we are making change and we're happy with making a change over time. But you've got great facility. I know there's a lot of people who watch this video and are in the course who would love to be able to do what you can do. And when we start to unpick little bits, tiny bits, you don't have massive issues. You've got small things. Your mind is defeating you. But technically, when we open up and just do small tweaks, you've already experienced it. You've already said you've already experienced it. And that's a whole different thing. There's good stuff going on there. So we're talking 1% stuff here. If you can back off 1% to make it 1% easier. And again, put yourself, from what you were doing there, good process. Now put yourself in the practice room. Not in the practice room. Put yourself in the gig. If you had to play up to a high D, do you play it in the manner that you just played it then? Or I can guarantee you're not. I can guarantee it. You're in gig mode. There's gig anxiety. There's got to play. There's all this. There's the music. There's the demand. I can guarantee that you are not playing at your rehearsal and at your performances like you played that. Again, happy to be wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
So
right? Exactly. There's no problem there. But you're not playing like it at your rehearsals. I can guarantee it.
So in general, that's where I am. I wanted to keep this kind of short.
Me too.
The way my week has gone.
55 minutes.
Started out great last weekend, Saturday, Sunday, just orchestra rehearsals for this show, Legally Blonde, which has some high stuff, which I normally would struggle a lot with. I can't say that I could play at all. It goes higher than I can go. F's.
It goes higher than you can force, and you are not aware of the shape of those notes. You haven't experienced it before, so you don't know the feeling of it, and playing it on the gig is obviously experimenting is not the answer. You are capable of doing it. You need to rethink some things about gear, definitely, but I can play the same range on bigger gear than smaller gear, but I work a lot harder and I don't like the sound. But I think to develop that range, you should consider getting onto a smaller cup and embracing the strangeness of it. You won't like the sound, you won't like the feel. That's the reptile rejecting the new. Embrace the strangeness. Bobby Shoes, to me years ago, when I'm thinking my mouthpiece is too tight, too small for me, I need a bigger mouthpiece, I need a bigger cup. You got to learn to play them. It's a different machine, it's a different instrument, it's a different tool. If Bobby's analogy is, if you need to screw into a wall, use a screwdriver. If you need to put a nail in a wall, use your hammer. You don't hammer a nail with a screwdriver. You don't nail a hammer. You don't hammer a nail with a screwdriver. So it's different. This feels ridiculous. Cool. How exciting. Not, I can't play it. Back off. You got to play it differently. You got to play piccolo differently to, a C trumpet, say. It's the same thing.
F sharps, G's sometimes, but so I just take that stuff down. There's just no way I can do it otherwise. But on Saturday and Sunday, I was having more success than I have had in the past.
I was having more success than I've had in the past.
With both endurance and range.
With both endurance and range. You said it. Logic says if you can do it once, you can do it again. But don't try and do it again. You'd never done it before like that, apparently. So therefore, you didn't try and do it. It happened. This is Zen in the Art of Archery stuff. It happened. Oh, wow. Cool. So then after it happens, and there's this feeling of freedom and feeling of comfort and this new coffee moment thing. But you've got to keep playing. You can't put your horn down and embrace the sensation because you're working. But you've had a new experience. So the best way to approach that is, this feels great. I wonder when that's going to happen again. Not, I'm going to do that again tomorrow. Because I'm going to do that again tomorrow is I'm actively doing it. I'm making it happen. You didn't make it happen in the first place. It happened on its own. You were just playing and all of a sudden this stuff that you didn't try and do worked. But then when you try and do it, it didn't work later as the story progresses. So embrace these moments. If you've done something once, you can do it again. If you force it to try and make it happen again, you're going to crash.
getting a little higher. The D's were secure, whereas before they'd fizzle out and I just would not be able to get it. Even E flats and E's were possible, and so I was very encouraged.
I was very encouraged. Therefore, my expectation is I will be able to do this from now on for the rest of my life. From this point, I just did it. I'm encouraged. I can do it. So now it's going to be there every time I try. Nope. You know that that's not remotely the right psychology. You know it. You've got to observe it and go, wow, I wonder when that's going to happen again.
And confident going into Monday, which was the full cast rehearsal. Monday was back to work, though.
And again, confident going in is a premonition of success based on the weekend, as opposed to, okay, let's just go in and see what happens. It could be this, it could be that, it could be this, it could be that. I'm in a learning phase. And again, I stress, put a line between what we're doing here and your gig. Just use the car that you've got and be accepting of the car that you've got, the machine that you've got. Be accepting of where you're at. Okay?
So I played in lessons all day. I should
This is important.
have probably taken it a lot easier.
Do you think? Right? I've taught in schools. I used to have to teach on a Monday and then go and do Dancing with the Stars, and I hated it. Because you're playing with kids and then go to a rehearsal and it just feels awful, and try and force your way through the show. It's awful. It's not ideal. But, my dear friend, you teach. You've got to play. Just be accepting of the fact that when you're playing like that your playing might feel a bit different, especially in a transition period. It'll get to the point where you can play. I can teach all day long. I can play all day long. It doesn't matter with the young kids or older, pros, whatever. I can sit here and record all day, and I can go off and do a gig, and it's no issue. But I'm a long way through the process. You're in the process. So it's managing expectations and accepting reality.
Here. And then I got to rehearsal, and right off the bat, I felt...
Right off the bat, it didn't feel good. That's not bad. Don't be down about it. It's reality. It is what it is. That's okay. Isn't that interesting? It feels shithouse.
more tired than I was hoping for. And that we went from 7:30 to midnight.
So, imagine, let's reverse the situation. You're at home, you're practicing at home. When was the last time you practiced at home from 7:30 till midnight, and then think of the way that you were playing in that rehearsal? When was the last time you sat at home and played with that intensity from 7:30 till midnight? I would guess never. Just saying.
So that was just like a punch to the face. The next two nights we got done an hour earlier, but it's like a snowball now.
Yep, of course it is. Of course it is, because the parameters have changed. Okay? Accept it, accept it, accept it. You're learning. You can only you're fighting your desire and your expectation. You're almost there's a denial of reality, which is futile. You can't make massive changes, and I know you're putting in a lot of time. It just takes more, and you're invested time-wise, and I get that. But if you were to just forget about trying to do everything that we're doing up in your gig range, and just constantly embrace and reinforce, then forget about it and just play. Because your expectations are crippling you. You want more. And it'll come, but the more down you get about it, the more frustrated you get about it, the further you delay, positive results. You've got to let go.
Last night was the opening night, and it went a lot better because I didn't play at all during the
Where, as I said at the start, you are answering your own questions, buddy. You are answering your own questions.
day, but I still was not as strong as
You've been playing all week. You've been teaching. Been doing rehearsals all week. Your body's not used to it.
the weekend.
Weekend was fresh. It was new. It was one of those moments. The world's aligned. Another Zen in the art of archery line, relying on favourable conditions. You will have days where it feels great, but you can't rely on that. You got to get through when it feels awful. That's just the nature of the beast. It's not going to feel great all the time. So forget. I know it's almost paradoxical. We play by feel, but don't get hung up on the feel of it, because trumpet can feel awful. By the end of the gig last night, man, there's a big book, and you just do whatever you can to get through. It didn't feel great, but again, I kept taking myself back to just keep reinforcing that. Doesn't matter that the next, the New York version we do, which is up to double G's and double G sharps, is like you've never heard. It's awesome. But let me tell you, from the 3 weeks of doing the harmonic slur challenge and doing the long notes and my breathing and everything, I'm approaching the horn in a different way to what I've ever approached it in my life, on a more profound level, because I've never done this harmonic slur challenge. It's a science experiment for me that I'm taking people on the journey with, and it feels awesome. My breathing is just killer. The sound, the body's concept, that's awesome. I'm learning this stuff. I'm teaching myself. Same as what I was 20 years ago, but I've learned a lot more. It's managing expectations, my friend.
So there's that, and this whole roller coaster ride has one of the biggest, most profound effects is confidence. Every time I pick up the horn, I never know what I'm going to get, like a box of chocolates, as they say. But so that has really rattled me.
Again, you can still do what you've always been able to do, but you're trying to force the change. You're trying to engage consciously the new techniques. You can't do it consciously. You can consciously go, and appreciate the sensation of it. You can consciously go, and appreciate the sensation of it and understand the mechanics behind it. But when it comes to play, do what you've always done. You will feel the difference. It will make you more aware of the inefficiencies in your playing, but that's the reality, so deal with it. But don't try and pull what we're doing into your playing, right? Don't consciously try and do it. Let it bleed through over time.
And it has been for years. I have gotten better about the anxiety, but it was to a point where I would be driving to even the first rehearsal of symphony. That's where I feel the most stress.
Paralyzed by the premonition of failure.
Musicals, it's no big deal, but the symphony, it's exposed. It's there's a higher standard, to put it frankly.
Yep.
So, and I have a lot of pressure. Put a lot of pressure on myself. And
but it's a pressure gig, dude. You almost. No, I was going to say something that's not true. It might sound offensive. Yeah. Not to you, but no. Not even going to try to explain what I thought, because my intention was to say something complimentary, but it could have been perceived as not nice, so I won't even say.
That's been a big struggle for me. So
man.
I want to be able to go in confidently, knowing that I can play what's on the page.
So what can I do? What can I kind of do? What can't I do? Green zone, yellow zone, red zone. Can you comfortably get up in the morning without falling over? Tick. Can you breathe? Tick. Can you go passive? Tick. Can I go tick? Can I get tissue and visualizer? I'm not sure. I need to see a video of you do that. Can you place mouthpiece and get sympathetic oscillation? Who knows? What can you do comfortably? Can you play even without any of Greg's stuff? Can Bill play Bill low C every day? Can you guarantee that a low C is going to go dot each time you go to... was I even close? Nah, C. No idea. Although maybe a C on a C trumpet. What can you do? What can you confidently do? That's what you need to know. There's too much haze going on, buddy. Too much, I don't know. There's too much mystery, right? What can I do? What can I guarantee I can do? What am I capable of doing on a good day, but what could go wrong? You know, what am I uncertain about? Da-da-da-dum. Da-da-da-dum. What is it? What are you worried about? What are you unsure that you can do? So again, there's this massive gap between what I know I can do every day and what I can't do. I can't play double high Gs, say, as an example. So where does it break down? In what part of this part? I know I can play a beautiful low C every single time. I know that I can't play a double high G. Right. So at what point? Where in this bit does it start to fall apart? That's what everyone needs to find. Everyone needs to find. And again, that's why the course is set up the way that it is.
And that's it. So, all right, we'll wrap this up. But thanks for listening. I think I asked all my questions, and would love to hear thoughts on that. So, thanks so much.
I feel your pain, my friend.
Hello.
Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for putting it out there, because let me guarantee that what you are saying, you are not alone. I spend my days teaching people like you that are great players all over the planet. And there are so many layers to this. And I mean, I'm sure I've said everything that I need to say. Yeah, I have. Stick with it. Send me a video of the tissue, the visualizer. And yeah, there's the psychological side. There's positive reinforcement. There's awareness. Patience. Acceptance of reality. Rejection of reality is insanity, because reality is reality. Hum. Shut your eyes whenever you get any anxiety. I'm only just learning about this. I was wondering why doing some humming releases anxiety, because I got some anxiety before doing a really big gig, last year. Was earlier this year? I can't remember. And basically, I mean, I can still play with a few butterflies and stuff. It's no problem, but I don't like the feeling of it. And to remind myself to not overblow, Greg, don't get in there and try and be a hero. And we had 2 days of recording to do. So I was reminding myself to play easily. Don't play more than that. And it certainly wasn't this, but this is the first thing that came into my head. Right, I would never play that in a fit, right? But it came into my head. But there's the feeling of it, right? But in reminding myself to not overblow, the anxiety went away. And apparently it's got to do with the vagus nerve, which I've just been given some information about. The vagus nerve, apparently anxiety is tightening of all these muscles. And then when we hum, the vagus nerve relaxes, and you can't be tight and relaxed at the same time. So the humming is like putting, heaps of water on a bushfire. Puts it out. It's amazing. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. So there are double benefits to humming. Or the triple benefits. And see if I can remember all three of them now. Finding the airflow, reminding ourselves the feeling of playing, getting rid of any anxiety. I need to do a full video on that alone. It's deep. Managing emotions, psychology. It's all about psychology here. You need to make tiny tweaks to your playing. Tiny, tiny, tiny. You need to recognize where negative tension kicks in, where there's too much going on and too much force of the air. Shut the eyes, close the eyes, recognize the feeling of the voice, recognize the point of difference when it starts to feel like that. Recognize the feeling in the way that you play at home versus the way that you're playing at rehearsals. They'll be two different things. Then when you embrace these things, freedom, all this stuff, and then you might have to consciously, at the rehearsal, just remind yourself to just put yourself in your practice room at home and go, how would I play this at home? And then play like that at the thing, at the gig or at the rehearsal. Ideally, we don't think about this stuff at all, but there's no problem with, like I did at this recording session, just go. I sat there in this recording session, I probably did it 8 or 9 times with Queensland Symphony Orchestra. Yes, orchestras are a different beast to a theatre show. I couldn't agree more. And I had heavy, heavy music to play. And I would sit there during the recording, 8 bars off, just to reinforce. Do I want to have to do that? Of course not. But the fact of the matter is we've got to do it. We've got to do what works, So I've got to let go. If anyone saw me sitting there and had a criticism or a judgment or an idea about it, that's their issue. I know that for me it was a reminder to not get into playing mode. Sit back behind it. Right? It's really deep. It's really heavy. My life is more going down the psychology side of it than the playing side. It fascinates me. I'm learning more and more and more. And playing the gig last night, sitting there with a goddamn penguin suit on and to a room full of people, and it sort of hit me on the way back to the car. It's not fulfilling for me. I don't feel like I'm serving any role when I'm performing, but I feel like I've got more to offer with this stuff. And that's why I'm pulling away from performing and spending my time on this, because, the thrill of the playing and the gig and stuff, I'm not threatened by the gig. I played fine, it was good. After doing the Windworks Challenge, I felt nuts. I was hooking in. It was great. But it's no big deal, where this stuff, for me personally, is a big deal, So it's helping me figure out who I am as a musician as with you, and with anyone who's watching this. It's interesting days. Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Eternally indebted, and let's talk soon. All the best. See ya.